Hi, I'm Elizabeth Gearhart. I'm here with Tara Faquir with Trustate.com. Hi, Tara.
Hey, how are you?
Good. So tell me what you do with Trustate.
Sure. So Trustate is a very unique company. We're the first of its kind, and we actually use technology paired with humans on the front end to settle the estate of, someone's loved one. So we have figured out the way to automate the 122 tasks associated with each and every administration, really making it easier for that executor and easing the burden throughout the entire process.
So if I get named an executor in an estate, how would I have gone about this in the past?
Sure. So, pre-Trustate, being an executor it is an honor because that loved one, left you with this responsibility, but we understand it can be an overwhelming task. And before pre-true state, you likely would have hired a lawyer, or you would have decided to do it on your own. If you decide to do it on your own, it takes approximately 570 hours, which, who has that type of time? And if you were to hire a lawyer, it often is much more expensive because you're paying for their legal expertise on what is strictly administrative work. So, with Trustate, our goal is to minimize the amount of time you're spending on the estate as well as the costs associated with settling the estate.
So do I need an estate attorney?
So, great question. In 95% of estate administrations, you don't need an attorney. The only time you need an attorney for an estate administration is when there is legal work to be done. So, an example of that is if the will is being contested, there's litigation on the estate, or, the will is written on the back of a napkin. In those situations, I would recommend a lawyer.
So do you get people who come to you and say, I've been named executor on this will. What now?
Yes, all the time. To many people, it's a surprise that they're an executor. And, that's really where we step in and can help them through the process. What I tell people is when you've experienced the loss and you're named as an executor, you don't need to act right away. There's a few things that you should, be thinking about, but take a few days, take a couple weeks to just kind of understand and decompress as much as you can. And then we'll take a look at how we can start, working through that process. You may have to go through probate, you may not. So those are things that we would evaluate and help you through.
So what does an estate executor do?
Everything. So those 122 tasks I had mentioned earlier, the executor is tasked with actually completing those. So it can be things like closing out your loved one's cable bill, or consolidating their accounts, getting the life insurance payout. Perhaps, they had a home that no one in the family, won. So you have to put that house on the market. So you're communicating with the realtor. You really, as an executor, become the core of communication with all the beneficiaries. So there's a lot that goes into it. And it can be a stressful time in somebody's life because they just suffered, this loss, and now they're tasked with all this additional work. But, it certainly is a big job.
So how long does it take to close an estate?
So on average, again, pre-true state, it takes about 570 hours to close an estate. And that usually is over the course of about 16 months. The reason it can take such a long time as far as months go is because you are working with different agencies throughout the process. So we may have to close an account at TIAA, and their process is a little bit different than closing out the Verizon cell phone bill. But you are, working with all those different agencies. What we do at Trustate is we're doing all that work for the executor so they can go back, to their family and their job. And we're just pinging them when a decision needs to be made or maybe a signature is needed for a letter.
So what are some gotchas with estate executive work?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, there's so many, you know, there's so many different um, things that are going to come up with an estate that really the biggest thing with the estate, and kind of that big takeaway is that, like, there has to be patience around the process, and that, it's really truly administrative work. It's not legal work.
And then what about, we were talking before, what about the people out there trying to steal the identities?
Yeah, there's a lot of not nice people out there, unfortunately. And we see this in the news time and time again, that someone preys on the elderly, whether it's a social security, claim, or taking out fraudulent credit. Those are things that you have to be mindful of when you're an executor. At Trustate, we make sure that we're notifying the credit bureaus to make sure that these types of things do not happen. But if you are going it alone, make sure you're taking a look at the credit reports to make sure that, additional credit hasn't been taken out on that person's social security number, because unfortunately there's not, there are some bad people in this world, and they do prey on people when they're vulnerable. And when you have just suffered a loss, you may not be, thinking as clearly as you typically are.
So what would a first meeting with you look like if I was named executor and now I have to figure out what to do?
Absolutely. So the first thing we do is we have a consultation. We have a team of estate concierges, and that's really that executor's go-to person throughout the entire process. So we have an estate concierge and the executor meet to just understand what that estate looks like. And, a lot of people come to that meeting and they're a little nervous because they don't know a lot. Not a lot of people have shared, the ins and outs of their finances with their loved ones. And we understand that. So the first meeting is just trying to uncover what we can, and really, trying to make that executor comfortable, knowing that we can help them regardless of how much information they do or do not know.
So do you have an example of somebody that you led through this process that you can share without their name, of course?
Sure. So we've helped several clients through this process, and it they everything varies because every estate is unique in its own way. While there's all the same things that we have to do, you have different personalities and different states we're working in. We're nationwide, but I can say that 100% of our clients have referred Trustate to their friends and family, because we do really step in at such a trying time for people.
So do you work with people from other countries?
So that's a great question. We do not settle estates in other countries yet. I mean, who knows, right? But what we can do is we can work with individuals in other countries who have been assigned as executor to US estates. So we have a client right now whose parent, he resides in Paris and his parent is in New York. So that's an estate that we can help with, even though he's in Paris. So now if it was an estate in France, that would be different. They would have to administer the French assets there, but we can do anything stateside.
So how do you get paid for this? Do you take a portion at the end or do you get paid up front or?
Yeah, another great question. So our fees are based on a flat fee based on the size of the estate, excuse me. We come in about 70% less expensive than if that person were to hire an attorney. And the way that we charge our fees is 50% upfront and 50% is due at close. Even if that means the estate isn't closed for a year, that's when the second payment comes through. And one of the great things is that this actually can be paid out of the estate expenses, so it's not coming out of the pocket of the executor.
Right, right. So do you handle big estates, small estates, everything in between?
Yeah, we can truly handle any size estate, which is fantastic. There are different complexities that may arise, and that's when we may have to refer an attorney for a certain piece of it, or an accountant for a piece of it. But we can really keep somebody's costs low because we're only outsourcing the legal work for the actual legal work, or the accounting work for the accounting work.
Excellent. So who is your typical customer or client?
You know, really anyone who has found themselves as an executor, in an ideal situation, we're stepping in right at the beginning and helping that person throughout the entirety of the estate. But we also have clients who have been named an executor for over a year, and it's taken them some time to really, they tried to go it alone, and then they had to take some time to just, decompress, because it is a lot. And then we step in when they realize that they need help. So again, ideally from the get-go, but we can truly step in at any time during the process.
Excellent. So how did you get started with this?
Yeah, so my business partner and I, we are longtime friends. We're graduates of the University of Miami. We were roommates there, big supporters of each other's careers. She went the trust and estates route. She was a very high powered attorney and really dealt with the ultra high net worth individuals, and realized that there are people who, they have access to funds and can pay any rate for somebody to settle the estate of a loved one. But for the average person, they don't have that type of bank account, and the estate that they were left with to administer may not have several millions dollars of funds. So, she kind of looked at it from that perspective and realized that there truly was some inefficiencies in the market, and something that a business could be built around. Meanwhile, I had, the experience of having to settle estates of loved ones, and realize it is a huge process. And there, and in my family, we hired an attorney, and it was still a ton of work for the executor. The attorney is not always doing all the work, and often giving you a checklist of things that you need to complete. And it comes at a time when, as I mentioned before, you're grieving, and you probably work a full-time job, or you have family or kids. So there really was just this gap that needed to be filled, and found that, we could actually do this, in an efficient process. And that's how it was born.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like a wonderful service.
Thank
Uh,
you.
and it sounds like it's a lengthy relationship if it takes that many hours to settle an estate. So what's some of the feedback that you're getting from people that you're helping?
It's awesome. Our clients, we really do build these strong relationships with our clients. We're there for them at a really tough time, and we learn about, the memories of that person that they loved and lost. And you form a bond with people. And so many people have said to us that, this service to them was, they didn't know, they wouldn't have been able to do it without us. And we've really been able to give them that space that is so necessary, during this emotional time. So we've received, really nice thank you notes, and cards, and just wonderful kind words. So we're so happy that we're able to provide a service, again, during such a time of need.
Excellent. Is there anything else we need to know about your company, Trustate?
Visit us, of course, online at www.trustate.com, and that's Trustate. There's a great database of resources there. So if you ever have questions about, what to do with that person's car, we have resources like that on our website. So please take a visit.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
Thank you.